Hello, everyone. I'm going to be talking about The Plot Over the Outsiders by S.E. Hinton, and then also go over some of the lesson plans or ideas that I figured out for this book. So, Pony Boy is a 14-year-old boy from Oklahoma growing up in the lower class of a society and is associated with a gang called the Greasers. He is raised by his older brother, who is the guardian of him, and his brother Soda since their parents had passed away in an automobile wreck. The Greasers have an opposing gang that they are always fighting against, and they're called the Sosas. The Sosas are the socials on the east side, which are rich kids. The Sosas are always finding ways to jump the Greasers, especially when they can outnumber them. So with this, a lot of it is throughout the book, it talks about how the Greasers should never be walking alone. Pony Boy, or in the event of an attack from the Sosas of two Greasers, there ends up being a murder. Pony Boy and Johnny find themselves having to flee town to escape the punishment of a crime they committed in self-defense. And with the help of another Greaser, they are on their way to Windricksville to hide out in a church basement. When they can't stand hiding out anymore, they decide to go back and turn themselves in. But as they leave town, they see that the church is on fire. They rush back to see what has happened and to find that there are kids trapped in the basement. Without a second thought, the boys rush into the church and rescue the kids. Pony Boy remembers escaping at the last second, but the church came crashing down and Johnny was still in there. This is where Pony Boy has passed out. The boys are then transferred to a hospital where Pony Boy is checked out and released and is waiting with his two older brothers who have been terrified with not knowing the whereabouts of Pony Boy. Johnny is in bad shape and the doctors don't know how long he has. The boys keep coming in to check on him before the big rumble, but it is evident his health seemingly is getting worse. Dally and the other Greasers who was bringing the boys back to turn themselves in, was burned while pulling Johnny out of the church. Even though he is okay, he still has to spend a few days in the hospital. So Dally, the boy who pulled Johnny out of the church, is frustrated that he will be missing the fight and asks 2 bits for his switchblade, which he hides under a hospital bed pillow. And as the boys prepare for the rumble, Pony Boy finds himself becoming more and more ill. Hiding his illness from his brothers, he joins the rumble, getting injured. And as the Sos make a run for it, Dally gains Pony Boy's attention and tells him he needs to go, as Johnny needs to see Pony Boy and his conditioning is worsening. As they make it back to the hospital, Pony Boy is able to get a few words from Johnny. Stay golden, Pony Boy, stay gold, right as he passes away. Pony Boy makes it back to break the news where he falls ill and ends up waking up days later. Pony Boy suffers from trauma from the death of his friends. So this book here, I came up with a few of the lesson plans, and one of them was for math. The lesson plan would be comparing prices of how much things cost in 1960 versus today. And in the book, it talks about when the two boys go to stay in the church, they had $50 given to them. And with $50, they came back with quite a few things, bologna, bread, a book, matches, and there were some more things on the list. So the lesson plan for that would to be able to compare the prices of everything they bought and to see if we could still buy everything they did for just $50. Science lesson plan that I came up with was smoking was a big part of the life of the young Greasers in here. Pony Boy is 14 years old, and he actually smokes more than any of the other kids in this book. So this would be comparing the realities for smoking for teens and why they raised the age, along with the effects of the effects on cardiovascular smoking has. Social studies would be the 1960s setting and social issues during this time frame. We would be able to discuss the similarities and the differences from 1960 to today, or even just over the course of years. It is amazing how this book is still popular. But with that being said, social would be the next one lesson plan that I chose to do. And this is the socioeconomic class divisions. Compare and contrast between 1960 and today's violence, social pressures, and prejudice. And I have the one question in this is, why is this book still as popular today as when it came out? I think as you read it, you'll pick up on it real quick. But with the book and the justification of how the qualities of literature it has was Outsiders is emotional. Like, you can feel the emotion in the book. It reaches every character, especially teenagers, but even as an older person, I connected to this as my life in the teens, or even just life we see today. So not only is it emotional, physical, it's symbolic, and it is attracting to the reader. It also shows themes of abuse, social conflict, prejudice, and violence, something that we see huge in today's world. So therefore, I think this is a book I recommend for everyone to read at some point in their life. If you have not read it, I recommend you go get it now and read it. You will not be disappointed.